First contact. The Catharan Empire had ruled the Orion Arm for over 3,000 years. Their crystalline ships, powered by quantum fold drives, were considered the epitome of space warfare technology. When their scout vessels first detected radio signals from Earth in 2157, their response was mere amusement, another primitive species taking its first stumbling steps into space. Admiral Synthera, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue light of her command center, watched the holographic display of the human diplomatic vessel approaching their border station. The ship was small, barely a quarter the size of a standard Catharan cruiser, its hull marked with what their translators identified as United Earth Federation. How quaint, she mused, her inner eyelids flickering in what her species considered a smile. They still use fusion drives. Her bridge crew chittered in agreement, their crystalline implants gleaming as they monitored the approaching vessel. The humans had achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 years ago, yet they already sought to establish diplomatic relations with the major powers of the galaxy. The Catharans had allowed this meeting purely out of tradition. All new spacefaring races were granted one audience before being assigned their place in the celestial hierarchy. The human ship docked with practiced precision, despite its seemingly primitive design. Admiral Synthera noted this with mild interest. At least they weren't completely incompetent. The diplomatic party that emerged from the airlock was led by Ambassador Sarah Chen, a small figure in a simple blue uniform that seemed almost insulting in its lack of ornamentation. "Welcome to Outpost Cathanine," Synthera announced, her translator converting her harmonic speech into English. "The Eternal Empire acknowledges your presence." Ambassador Chen bowed slightly, her expression carefully neutral. "The United Earth Federation thanks you for this audience. We come seeking peaceful dialogue and mutual understanding." Synthera's secondary hearts pulsed with amusement. Every new race said the same things, made the same gestures. None of them understood that the galaxy had an order, a hierarchy established through millennia of warfare and technological advancement. The Catharans stood at the apex, and these humans would soon learn their place. "Tell me, Ambassador," Synthera said, gesturing to a holographic display of Earth's solar system. "Your species has achieved quantum compression drives barely 3 decades ago. What could you possibly offer the Eternal Empire?" Chen's reply was unexpected. "Innovation, Admiral. Humanity has a unique approach to problem solving. We believe in collaboration, in finding new ways to overcome challenges. Our technological progress may seem modest by your standards, but our rate of advancement is unprecedented." The bridge crew's crystalline implants pulsed with barely contained laughter. Synthera raised a scaled hand, silencing them. "Unprecedented. The Eternal Empire has cataloged the rise of over 300 spacefaring species. All followed the same pattern of development. All found their place in the order we established." "Perhaps," Chen replied, "but with respect, Admiral, humanity has already defied several of your established patterns. Our quantum compression drives, for instance, achieved efficiency ratings that your own engineers claimed were theoretically impossible for a young civilization." Synthera's inner eyelids snapped open. The human was correct, though she would never admit it. Their drive designs had puzzled Catharan scientists, who dismissed the anomaly as a fluke or measurement error. "You speak boldly, Ambassador. Bold enough to challenge the combat prowess of the Eternal Empire." The question was meant to intimidate, to remind these upstarts of their place. Every species knew of Catharan military superiority. Their battle fleets had not known defeat in over 2,000 years. Chen's response was careful, measured. "We are not here to challenge anyone, Admiral. But neither will we accept arbitrary limitations on our potential. Humanity seeks friends, not masters." The declaration sent ripples of discord through the crystalline implants of the bridge crew. Such insolence, such pride from a species that hadn't even established colonies beyond their home system. "Your potential." Synthera's scales shifted to a deeper blue, a sign of growing irritation. "Let me show you something, Ambassador." She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show a massive Ketharan battle fleet. This is one of our routine patrol groups. 50 capital ships, each capable of reducing a continent to slag. 200 escort cruisers. Over 1,000 automated combat platforms. This is but a fraction of our military might. Chen studied the display with genuine interest. Impressive. Though I notice your ships still rely on crystalline quantum matrices for computational processes, we abandoned that approach early in our development. Too prone to cascading failures under certain conditions. The casual observation struck Synthera like a physical blow. How did they know about that vulnerability? The crystalline computing architecture's susceptibility to cascade failures was one of the Empire's most carefully guarded secrets. You overstep, Ambassador, Synthera hissed, her scales now pulsing with angry red patterns. Perhaps the Eternal Empire should demonstrate why we have ruled the stars for 3 millennia. That would be unfortunate, Chen replied, her calm unbroken. We believe there's room enough in the galaxy for cooperation rather than dominance. But if the Empire insists on demonstration. She paused, reaching into her uniform pocket and placing a small holographic projector on the floor. The device activated, showing a recording that made Synthera's hearts skip a beat. It showed a human vessel, small and unremarkable, executing maneuvers that should have been impossible. The ship seemed to bend space around itself, moving in ways that defied known physics. This is the U.S. Hornet, one of our test vessels, Chen explained. The recording is from 6 months ago. We've made significant improvements since then. The bridge crew's implants were now pulsing with confusion and concern. Synthera fought to maintain her composure. Tricks, special effects created to inflate your importance. Chen smiled. If you say so, Admiral. But consider this. If a primitive species like ours can achieve this in just 30 years of FTL capability, imagine what we might accomplish as allies rather than subjects. The implications hung in the air like a charged particle storm. Synthera found herself facing a diplomatic and strategic conundrum. These humans were either masterful bluffers or genuinely possessed technology that could threaten Ketharan military supremacy. As the meeting concluded and the human delegation prepared to depart, Synthera made a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. She sent a priority message to the Imperial High Command. Human species requires immediate attention. Conventional assessment protocols insufficient. Recommend direct military evaluation. The humans had arrived seeking dialogue. They would leave having initiated a chain of events that would shake the foundations of the Eternal Empire's dominion over the stars. The challenge. The Imperial High Command's response to Admiral Synthera's warning came within days. The Eternal Empire would not tolerate uncertainty about a potential rival power. High Admiral Val Korthan himself arrived at Kethanine aboard his flagship, the World Breaker, a vessel that dwarfed even the largest Ketharan battleships. 3 months had passed since the first diplomatic contact. The humans had established a small trading outpost near the border, carefully observing all Imperial protocols while quietly expanding their presence. Val Korthan watched their activities through the World Breaker's quantum scope, his crystalline implants pulsing with dark purpose. These humans, he rumbled, addressing his war council, they demonstrate concerning patterns. Their ships grow more sophisticated with each passing week. They learn, adapt, evolve their technology at an alarming rate. He gestured to a holographic display showing the trading outpost. And now our scientists report their quantum compression drives operate on principles we don't fully understand. The council chamber, carved from living crystal and pulsing with bioorganic light, filled with murmurs of concern. A junior admiral, scales still bright with youth, spoke up. High Admiral, surely we don't consider them a genuine threat. Their fleet numbers less than 50 ships. Val Korthan's inner eyelids narrowed. Numbers mean nothing if their technology can nullify our advantages. We must test them, gauge their true capabilities before they grow stronger. The plan took shape quickly. The Eternal Empire would issue a formal challenge. a traditional method of assessing new spacefaring races. The humans would be required to demonstrate their military prowess in a controlled engagement against a Ketharan battle group. Such challenges were ancient custom, and refusal would mark Earth as cowards, unworthy of respect in the galactic community. Ambassador Chen received the challenge notification while reviewing reports at the trading outpost. Her expression remained neutral as she read the terms, but her hands tightened imperceptibly on the datapad. The challenge was expertly crafted. Refuse, and Earth would lose all diplomatic credibility. Accept, and they would face the most powerful military force in known space. The response from Earth's United Defense Command came within hours, surprising the Ketharans with its speed and directness. Challenge accepted. We will meet your battle group at the designated coordinates in 7 standard days. We request only that neutral observers be present to document the engagement. Velkorthan was pleased. The humans had taken the bait, and soon they would learn their place in the galactic order. He assigned Admiral Synthera to lead the test fleet, 15 capital ships, including her own flagship, the Stormweaver. It was a force that had crushed entire alien armadas in previous demonstrations. What troubled him, though he would never admit it openly, was the humans' insistence on neutral observers. They seemed almost eager to have witnesses present, as if they anticipated something worth seeing. The 7 days passed quickly. The designated battlefield was a remote sector known as the Crimson Nebula, its red gases providing a dramatic backdrop for what the Ketharans expected to be a brief but instructive encounter. Observation vessels from various galactic powers took up safe positions at the edge of the combat zone. Admiral Synthera stood on her bridge, watching as her fleet assembled in perfect formation. The crystalline ships caught the nebula's light, creating a spectacular display of power and precision. Her crew was composed of veterans, beings who had fought in dozens of similar demonstrations. They were ready, eager to teach these upstart humans about real space warfare. The humans arrived precisely on schedule, but their appearance caused immediate confusion among the Ketharan fleet. Instead of a battle group, a single ship emerged from quantum space. It was smaller than even a Ketharan light cruiser, its hull a deep, non-reflective black that seemed to drink in the nebula's crimson light. Impossible, Synthera's tactical officer sputtered, his implants pulsing with disbelief. They send one ship against our fleet. This is beyond arrogance. The human vessel's identification transponder activated. U.S. Chimera, Earth Defense Force. Its commander opened a channel to the Ketharan flagship, and a calm human voice filled the bridge. This is Captain Elena Santos of the U.S. Chimera. We are ready to proceed with the demonstration at your convenience. Admiral. Synthera's scales rippled with a mixture of anger and anticipation. Did they think this was some kind of joke? Captain Santos, you face 15 capital ships of the Eternal Empire. Your vessel will be destroyed within moments. Do you wish to reconsider your approach to this challenge? No reconsideration needed, Admiral, Santos replied, her voice carrying the hint of something that might have been amusement. We're quite comfortable with these odds. The observation vessel's sensors focused on the lone human ship, their crews wondering if they were about to witness either an act of supreme foolishness or something unprecedented in galactic military history. Synthera's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of agitation in her species. Very well. By the ancient customs of the Eternal Empire, this demonstration of military capability will commence in 30 standard minutes. May the strongest prevail. As her crew made final battle preparations, Synthera couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The humans had proven unconventional in every interaction so far. What could give them such confidence in the face of overwhelming odds? She was about to find out, and the answer would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The U.S. Chimera. Captain Elena Santos stood at the command center of the U.S. Chimera, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Ketharan battle fleet. Around her, her crew worked with quiet efficiency, each movement precise and purposeful. They had trained for this moment for months, knowing they would eventually need to demonstrate humanity's true capabilities. The Chimera's bridge was unlike anything the Ketherans might have imagined. No crystalline displays or bioorganic interfaces. Instead, the walls themselves seemed alive with quantum field projections, creating a seamless sphere of information around the command crew. Every officer could see and interact with any part of the ship's systems through thought-linked neural interfaces, technology that the Ketherans had dismissed as theoretically impossible for primitive species to develop. "All systems at ready status, Captain," reported Commander Sarah Chen, younger sister of Ambassador Chen, and the Chimera's tactical officer. "Quantum core stable, phase shields at maximum capacity, ghost drive standing by." Santos nodded, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The ghost drive, humanity's greatest technological achievement, and one they had kept carefully hidden until now. It wasn't just an engine. It was a complete reimagining of how ships could interact with space-time itself. "Status of the observer vessels?" Santos asked, though she could see the information clearly in her neural feed. She wanted her crew to verbalize key information, a habit that had saved lives more than once. "All observation posts are in position," Lieutenant Marcus Wong reported from his operations station. 17 different species represented. The Arcturians seem particularly interested. "Their sensors have been probing our hull configuration for the past 10 minutes. Santos allowed herself a small chuckle. Let them probe. The Chimera's hull was designed to reveal exactly nothing about its true capabilities. The outer layer was a metamaterial that absorbed or deflected any known form of scanning technology, while the inner layers, well, the inner layers would prove to be quite a surprise to their Ketheran hosts. "Message from the Stormweaver," Wong announced. "Admiral Synthera is requesting our deployment strategy for the demonstration." "Standard response," Santos replied. The crew had practiced this countless times. Everything had to appear normal until the moment it wasn't. The minutes ticked by as both sides completed their final preparations. Santos used the time to study the Ketheran fleet formation. It was impressive, she had to admit. Their ships moved with perfect coordination, their crystalline hulls catching the light of the nebula in ways that were probably meant to be intimidating. The formation was textbook perfect, which made it perfectly predictable. 5 minutes to engagement, Chen announced. Ketheran fleet is moving into attack position. Their energy signatures indicate weapons charging. Santos straightened in her command chair, her expression becoming focused. "Begin pre-initialization sequence for the Ghost Drive. Keep our power signature at minimal levels. Let them think we're just a standard destroyer until the last possible moment." Throughout the ship, systems that had never been revealed to the galaxy at large began to warm up. The quantum core, a sphere of contained spacetime that served as both power source and reality manipulation engine, pulsed with energy that the Ketheran sensors couldn't even detect. 2 minutes, Chen reported. Ketheran fleet is deploying fighter screens, detecting targeting locks from multiple vessels. Santos opened a channel to her entire crew. "All hands, this is the captain. What we do here today will change the balance of power in the galaxy, not because we seek dominance, but because we must show that humanity will not be dismissed or subjugated. Every one of you is trained for this moment. Trust your training. Trust each other. Trust in what we've built." The Ketheran fleet had arranged itself in a classic encirclement pattern, their capital ships forming a sphere around the Chimera with fighter screens filling the gaps. From their perspective, the human vessel was completely trapped. 1 minute to engagement, Chen announced. The tension on the bridge was palpable, but controlled. This crew had been chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to handle the impossible with calm professionalism. "Final preparations," Santos ordered. "Quantum core to standby status. Phase shields to active mode. Targeting systems online but passive. Let's show them what happens when they underestimate humanity." The last few seconds ticked away. On the Stormweaver's bridge, Admiral Synthera gave the order to begin the demonstration, expecting it to be over in minutes. She had no way of knowing that those minutes would become legendary in the annals of galactic military history. Catharan fleet is firing, Chen reported calmly. Multiple plasma torpedo launches detected. Impact in 15 seconds. Santos allowed herself one final small smile. Initiate ghost drive. Let's introduce ourselves properly. The space around the chimera began to twist, and the revolution in warfare began. The dance of shadows. The salvo of plasma torpedoes from the Catharan fleet converged on the chimera's position with devastating precision. Each torpedo carried enough energy to vaporize a small moon, their combined power enough to overwhelm any known defense system. Admiral Synthera watched with grim satisfaction, expecting to see the human vessel disappear in a spectacular explosion. Instead, the impossible happened. The space around the chimera rippled like water, and the ship simply ceased to exist. The plasma torpedoes passed through empty space, their targeting systems confused by the sudden disappearance of their prey. Before the Catharan crews could process what had happened, the chimera reappeared, directly between two of their capital ships. Ghost drive functioning perfectly, Commander Chen reported on the chimera's bridge. Phase shields holding at maximum efficiency. No strain on the quantum core. Captain Santos nodded, her eyes tracking multiple tactical displays simultaneously through her neural interface. Begin demonstration pattern Alpha. Let's show them exactly what they're dealing with. The chimera moved with impossible grace, its hull seeming to blur between states of existence. When Catharan weapons fire approached, the ship would partially phase out of normal spacetime, letting the energy pass harmlessly through its position. The ghost drive wasn't just an engine. It was a system that allowed the ship to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. On the Stormweaver's bridge, chaos erupted as tactical officers tried desperately to track the human vessel. Their crystalline computing systems, designed to predict conventional ship movements, were overwhelmed by the chimera's impossible maneuvers. How are they doing this? Synthera demanded, her scales flashing patterns of confusion and anger. No ship can move like that. It defies every law of physics we know. The answer came in the form of the chimera's first offensive action. The human ship appeared to split into 3 identical versions of itself, each one targeting a different Catharan capital ship. Before the Catharan commanders could determine which was real, all 3 chimeras fired. The weapons weren't the standard energy beams or plasma torpedoes the Galaxy had come to expect. Instead, precise pulses of quantum-shifted particles passed through the Catharan vessel's shields as if they didn't exist, temporarily disrupting the crystalline matrices that powered their ships. 3 Catharan capital ships, each worth more than a small planet's GDP, drifted powerless in space. Their crews were unharmed, but their mighty vessels had been reduced to floating hulks by weapons that shouldn't have existed. Multiple ships have lost power, Chen reported calmly. Their crystal matrices are intact but dormant. They can restore power in approximately 30 minutes as designed. Santos allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. The chimera's weapons had been specifically calibrated to disable rather than destroy. This wasn't meant to be a slaughter. It was meant to be a message. The remaining Catharan ships tried to adapt, spreading out to minimize the effectiveness of the chimera's attacks. Synthera ordered her fighter screens to form a defensive web, hoping to trap the human vessel with sheer numbers. They're learning, Santos observed, but they're still thinking in traditional space warfare terms. Show them why that won't work. Initialize the quantum wake. The chimera's quantum core pulsed, and a wave of distorted spacetime rippled outward from the ship. As it passed through the fighter screen, their crystalline computers experienced cascade failures, rendering the small ships powerless but intact. By the eternal light, Synthera whispered, watching hundreds of her fighters powerless in space. The human ship wasn't just superior. It was operating on a level of technology that made the Eternal Empire's most advanced weapons look primitive. The demonstration continued for another 20 minutes, though it felt like hours to the Catharan crews. The chimera systematically disabled ship after ship, each time using different techniques that the Ketherans couldn't counter or even fully understand. Through it all, Captain Santos maintained a calm, almost educational approach. "Notice how their formation keeps trying to predict where we'll appear," she told her crew. "They haven't grasped that we're not actually moving through space in any way they understand. The ghost drive doesn't transport us. It shifts our quantum state probability until we exist where we choose to exist." Finally, only the Storm Weaver remained operational among the Ketheran capital ships. The Chimera appeared directly in front of Syntheris' flagship, close enough that the Admiral could see every detail of its mysterious hull through her command viewport. "Admiral," Santos' voice came through clear on all frequencies, "I believe this demonstration has served its purpose. Your fleet is disabled but undamaged. Power will return to all vessels within the hour. No lives have been lost today." Synthera stared at the human ship, her worldview completely shattered. What are you?" "We are humanity," Santos replied simply. "We don't seek dominance or conquest. We seek understanding and mutual respect. Your empire has ruled through technological superiority for millennia. We're here to suggest that perhaps it's time for a new approach to galactic civilization." The observer vessels, watching from their safe distance, had recorded everything. Within hours, the footage would spread across the galaxy, and the balance of power that had stood for 3,000 years would begin to shift. The age of Ketheran dominance was over. The age of human innovation had begun. A new dawn. 1 month after the Crimson Nebula demonstration, the Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Conclave buzzed with unprecedented activity. Representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations had gathered to witness something that hadn't occurred in 3,000 years, a formal revision of the galactic power structure. High Admiral Val Corthan stood before the assembled delegates, his crystalline implants dulled with the weight of what he had to say. Behind him, Admiral Synthera and Captain Santos sat side by side, a symbolic gesture that spoke volumes to the watching galaxy. "For millennia," Val Corthan began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, "the Eternal Empire has maintained order through superiority of force and technology. Today, we acknowledge that this era has ended, not through violence or conquest, but through the emergence of a species that challenges our most basic assumptions about technological development." The assembled delegates murmured amongst themselves. The recordings from the Crimson Nebula demonstration had already circulated widely, spawning countless debates and discussions across the galaxy. Some feared this change in the power structure would lead to chaos. Others saw opportunity in the shifting political landscape. Ambassador Chen, seated with the Earth delegation, watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The plan had worked perfectly. Humanity had demonstrated its capabilities without causing a single casualty, proving both their technological superiority and their ethical restraint. The United Earth Federation, Val Corthan continued, has proposed a new framework for galactic cooperation. Their technology, particularly their advances in quantum mechanics and space-time manipulation, offers possibilities that our empire's scientists are only beginning to understand. They have offered to share certain aspects of this knowledge, not as conquerors imposing their will, but as partners in galactic development. Captain Santos stood at this point, walking to the center of the chamber. The eyes of hundreds of species followed her movement, many still struggling to comprehend how her single ship had so completely changed the galaxy's balance of power. What humanity demonstrated in the Crimson Nebula was not just military technology. She addressed the assembly. The ghost drive, phase shields, and quantum weaponry are merely expressions of a different way of thinking about the universe. We developed these technologies not because we sought power, but because we refused to accept limitations. She gestured to the various delegation pods floating throughout the chamber. Each species here has unique insights, unique approaches to understanding reality. The Ketherans mastered crystalline computing. The Arcturians excel at biological engineering. The Proxima Collective has unmatched expertise in artificial intelligence. Imagine what we could achieve by truly collaborating, rather than competing for dominance. The chamber erupted in discussion, thousands of voices blending into a symphony of possibility. Representative after representative stood to speak, some expressing support, others voicing concerns. Through it all, the human delegation remained calm, confident in the path they had chosen. Admiral Synthera approached Santos during a brief recess, her scales now showing patterns of deep blue, a sign of respectful contemplation in her species. "You could have destroyed us that day," she said quietly. "Your ship had the power. Why show such restraint?" Santos smiled. "Because destruction is easy, Admiral. Building something new, something better, that's the real challenge. Humanity learned that lesson through centuries of our own conflicts. We didn't come to the stars to repeat old mistakes." As the session resumed, the Galactic Conclave began the complex process of restructuring. The Eternal Empire would retain significant influence, but no longer as absolute rulers. A new council would be formed, with representation from all major powers, focused on collaborative development rather than hierarchical control. In the months that followed, the changes rippled across the galaxy. The U.S. Chimera's demonstration had opened doors that many had thought permanently closed. Species that had accepted their place in the hierarchy began to explore new possibilities. The Ketharan Empire, rather than resisting the change, adapted with surprising grace, their scientists eagerly collaborating with human researchers to understand the principles behind the ghost drive technology. 1 year after the demonstration, a new installation opened in the Crimson Nebula, the Galactic Institute of Quantum Sciences. Its first class included students from 50 different species, including several young Ketharans. Captain Santos, now Admiral Santos, gave the opening address. "We stand at the beginning of a new era," she told the assembled students. "Not an era of human dominance replacing Ketharan dominance, but an era of genuine cooperation. Each of you brings unique perspectives, unique ways of thinking about the universe. Together, we will discover possibilities that none of us could have imagined alone." High Admiral Val Corthan, watching from the audience, found himself experiencing an emotion he had never expected: hope. His empire had ruled through power for 3 millennia, and that power had brought order but also stagnation. Now, watching young Ketharans eagerly discussing quantum theories with humans, Arcturians, and others, he saw a different kind of order emerging. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in 3,000 years, no one knew exactly what the future would bring. And that, perhaps, was the greatest gift humanity had brought to the stars. The return of uncertainty, of possibility, of wonder. The age of empire had ended. The age of exploration was just beginning. The end.